Welcome to the Guided Expressions podcast with Martin Williams, the place to learn and be inspired to live your best life. Here is your host, Martin Williams.
Welcome to the Guided Expressions podcast. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You may do so by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Had to remember all the different platforms. All the links to the podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcast. And I also want to remind you that I have two projects coming up. The first is the Blueprint Visualization book, the Visualization System book and audio book that will be out by the end of April. And also the Blueprint course, which will be out this summer. So really exciting stuff going on. I'm glad that these things are finally getting pushed out, and I hope that you take advantage and partake of it and let it change your life. Today, what I wanted to talk to you about is the law of sowing and reaping, but I want to go from a different slant on that. Many of you have heard the law of sowing and reaping. You know what it means, and you know that, what we put out is what we get back. But sometimes I don't think people really think about it on the level in which they live. I think the concept is not hard to understand, but the application is not always consistent. So I wanted to tell you a bit about me. I've always been someone who is not really the most social person in the world. I'm working on that on a daily basis. And part of that, working on it, is just trying to be more outgoing when I'm out, talking to strangers and saying hi and all this other stuff. So I've mentioned on a previous podcast that I've started running. And when I first started running, I went to this lake that is near where I live, and it's actually a park, and a lot of people run and walk around the lake. And it's a good distance. It's about 3 miles around the lake. And I've really gotten used to the park, and I like running around the park. It's very peaceful. It's a great way to start my day. My job can be fairly stressful. And then also other things that are going on at this time with the quarantine and everything else can add even more stress. So it's been good to do that. That's one of the few things that have not been closed is the park. So anyway, when I first started running there, I just kind of put my head down and I decided, okay, I'm just going to run and, I'm just going to get my exercise out. And, I wasn't really there to, be social, wasn't there to meet anyone. I'm in a relationship, a very happy one, not trying to put myself out there or anything like that. I'm just going to run my 3 miles and go home, right? Actually run and walk because I was starting out, but you get the point. And so I noticed that as I was running, people would just speak to me. They said, "Oh, hi, good morning, hi," and people were outgoing. We're in the South, and we came from Pennsylvania. We're in Florida now, and people are just more outgoing here than they are in Pennsylvania. Nothing wrong with Pennsylvania, nothing against Pennsylvania. They're just more outgoing in the South than they are in the North. Just how it is. So people were just saying hi to me. And so I said, I said hi back. And pretty soon I almost felt like I was being indoctrinated. It's like, you run around this lake, you say hi to people. So, I kind of went back and forth about it. And it's always been something where I feel like in the past I've tried to be outgoing, but people wouldn't be receptive to it, or they'd be like, why is this guy talking to me? Why is he waving? Blah, 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 blah. That whole thing. And so I stopped. I just said, I'm just going to keep to myself and so on. And, that there's nothing wrong with that. In our world, there's introverts and there's extroverts, and A lot of it comes from how we grew up and, our personality types and all that. I'm not trying to make anyone who's an introvert into an extrovert, but I think it's interesting that I felt some kind of way when I would say hi and people wouldn't say hi back. And I noticed that at the lake too, because I felt like, well, if they're saying hi, maybe that's just how things are done here. So I'm going to start saying hi too. And, sometimes you get it back right away. And other times, people will just kind of like warm up and say, oh yeah, I'll say hi, whatever. And, there's people that you see all the time. Like I run probably 4 or 5 times a week and you see the same people. And, I say hi to them and whatnot. And they say hi back. My whole point in all of this is that I realized that I couldn't allow people to dictate my behavior. I couldn't allow people to push me back into being an introvert or being more introverted just because they wouldn't speak back to me. Because I know about the law. I know the law of sowing and reaping. I know that what I put out is what I get back. If I put out friendliness, I will get back friendliness. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be from the person that I gave the initial friendliness to. And often, it doesn't come back that way. Often, it comes back in other ways. But it's a decision that you make. And you say, I'm just going to be a friendly person. And, I understand I'm not going to be buddy with the vast majority of people, buddy. But I'm making a decision that I'm just going to be more outgoing. I'm going to be friendlier. And whatever happens, happens. If I don't have any more friends, that's okay, right? But it's really a reminder that if I put that out, what I put out is what I get back, okay? If I put out negativity, I get negativity back. And I've had to adjust how I behave on social media because of that same negativity. But it goes beyond that. What about at the workplace? If I put a half-hearted effort, I get half-hearted results. Okay? But if I put in a full effort, I get full results. What about in my business? If I put out a half-hearted product, I get half-hearted sales. But if I put out a product that solves multiple problems, I'll get multiple sales from multiple types of people with those problems. Life is really simple. We overthink it. We overanalyze life in a lot of ways. So I want you to really look at your life and examine, what are you putting out? Like, what type of energy are you putting out? Are you putting out negativity? Are you putting out indifference? Are you putting out a sense of inferiority or a sense of superiority? Are you kind of out of balance in that area? Are you out of balance just in how you treat people? Are you out of balance in whatever area of your life? Really examine that and see where you stand. Because at the end of the day, it is true. Like, what we put out is what we get back. And it may not come back the way that we think it's going to come back. And often it doesn't. Often it comes back in ways that we never dreamed it would come back, either positive or negative. But if we are mindful of that, I think we will live a more fulfilling life because, well, we'll know what to put out. If I want a healthy garden, I'm not going to plant poison, right? I'm going to plant the types of things that I want to see in that garden. And life is no different. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Guided Expressions podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And I will talk to you soon.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Guided Expressions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify to get all the latest content from Guided Expressions. No one builds a house without a blueprint, so why are you trying to build your dream life without one? That's how the Blueprint course was created. The Blueprint course is for people who know they were meant for more. Created by Martin Williams, the Blueprint is a streamlined way to help you create the life you've always wanted. Get instant access now by clicking the link in the description box or going to guidedexpressions.com/blueprint.